Call of Duty League is presented by Seany, the official eyewear for the CDL. Armor your eyes with Seany Blot's blue light protection glasses by visiting seany.com/gaming. Presented by USAA Renters Insurance, made to insure your gear in real life.
Hello friends, and welcome to day one of the Florida home series. It is set to be a wonderful weekend of matches. We're starting things off in a great way. Atlanta FaZe taking on the Seattle Surge. Before we hop into this game, it's good to kind of give some perspective, right? Coming into week 2 of stage 4, this is where our CDL points sit right now. Of course, presented by GameFuel. You notice at the top, FaZe firmly in command of that number 1 spot. You look all the way down to number 12. Who's that? Oh yeah, it's Seattle Surge with 50 points. A big game. Like we said, we talk about how the groups are obviously winding out, stud. But again, when we talk about where both of these teams sit, it is basically number 1 versus number 12. Atlanta FaZe sitting pretty after a W. Seattle on the other side not feeling so great after a loss. Again, folks, it is Lando and Study guiding you guys through the action. A great game. Study kick off the Florida home series. I got followed by John Cena on Twitter. How are you?
Me too, man. I couldn't see him when he followed me, but I was happy to get a follow by Mr. John Cena. But between these two matches, like you said, number 1 versus number 12. This is David versus Goliath. And right now, Seattle, they need every win that they can possibly get. And when you're going up against a team like Atlanta FaZe, who already have 2 major wins underneath their belt, they're the number 1 team in the entire CDL, currently sitting at 360 points. They're just trying to work on their bad maps. So if you're the Surge, you need to come out. You need to play probably the best Call of Duty you've played all season.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, so when you face off against a team like Atlanta, you got to be on point. It's going to be, what, their 2nd series now with Classic in the lineup. Can they end the 8-game losing streak? Can they pull off something absolutely miraculous? We're excited to see if that, in fact, can be the case. Let's go ahead and meet our first team, Seattle Surge. Fire coming in, but can Prestinni win the 2? No. He does. That's 3 straight.
He's trying to get out there. He challenges and he wins it. Behind a Classic. Trying to line him up. Never final.
Looking to find a few more, but Gunless absolutely rips his way through the 3 of them.
249, Seattle won! And there you have it, your Seattle Surge. 4 individuals who probably also got the follow by John Cena. On a serious note, though, stud, a heartbreaking loss that this team is coming off of. A big game versus the LA Thieves. We can talk a number of different times about that control, and they get all the way to the game 5 and are not able to close it out. Like we said, man, just one of the many unfortunates for Seattle kind of so far throughout this year. Expectations coming into the rest of stage 4, in your opinion?
I think Seattle, I feel like they're going to be on the upwards because obviously in the series that they play versus the Thieves, if they do not choke that control, they're able to close it out in 3-1 with them winning both hard points. So with them adding Classic to this team, I just feel like everyone is a lot more comfortable on the map. And we saw it out of Octane in that series. He had a great series. Yeah. Even though they lost it in the 3-2, we haven't seen Octane play that well in a really long time. So for players like Classic who didn't have a good debut, you're doing what your team needs you to do. It's just those little plays that really, those little mistakes that can cost you out in series. You just got to make sure that you're closing out in those final moments.
Yes, and oftentimes we talk about it's the little things, right? It can be the mistakes, and this team on the other side, they like to punish you when it comes down to those little mistakes. Again, like we said, when we talk about the CDL points, it is hard to ignore the team at the top. It is hard to not see them, if you get what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and beat our other team. Again, a solid roster, a group that we look to see have another solid performance today. It is the Atlanta FaZe.
The game has turned on its head. Run! Get onto the point! Cellium finds himself 2 more. Oh, baby! Absolutely slayed. What a magnificent comeback from Atlanta.
And there it is, the Atlanta FaZe, a scary roster from top to bottom. And as we were talking about Seattle, off of an unfortunate loss, Atlanta on the other side, off of a very heroic win, stud. They get to 3-0 versus OpTic.
Yeah, they get the 3-0 versus OpTic, and that was just insane to watch because Atlanta FaZe, And once again, when they play the top dogs, they're going to come out and play their best maps. They're not trying to let anything fishy happen, so they dominated OpTic in that series in a 3-0 clean with everyone sitting over basically a 1.2, and that's just something that we don't see often. And that's what's so scary about this team, is that they have no weakness. So watching Atlanta FaZe, you know, 2 already major wins underneath their belt, the best team in the game. But let's just hop into our keys to victory, brought to you by Game Fuel for Atlanta FaZe. They showed their line of consistency versus OpTic. Like I said, man, everybody was over 1.18 KD with a plus 50 slaying. It's so scary, man, because everyone is just so consistent on this team and they have no weakness. And continue to expand the map pool leading into the Major 4. Work on the little things. They only have a couple maps that they're not really comfortable on yet, and we see them every series. Just throw them in there, trying to get better at them. But when we do the keys to victory for Atlanta FaZe, it's just really difficult because these guys are so good. They just need to be on point today.
I know it's always like, okay, expand your map pool and, you know, just one play that happened, yeah, you guys should work on that. Like, it's so minor. Of course, on the other side, our Game Fuel keys to victory here for the Seattle Surge. What, man? Slayers need to be firing on all cylinders. You're playing against a squad like FaZe, and with Classic now on the team, he can free up those Slayers to be able to find kills, as you mentioned, as we saw versus LAT. And then Control, right? It cannot continue to hold them back any longer as they sit right now on an 8-game losing streak in that mode. And obviously, we talk about their last series versus Thieves quite often. They lost both of the Search and Destroys in that department. And really, in general, when we talk about their map pool, it has to improve, right? I think they're like 4-10 outside of Express, Search, and Destroy. So again, just a number of different things that, you know, have to be kind of in the process for Seattle. It's obviously going to be a very tough, rather very difficult and tough opponent coming in here versus Atlanta. But we talk about map vetoes. We talk about possibly maybe a map expansion coming in from Atlanta. That as we look through our set of 5 here, any maps kind of stick off the page for you?
Yeah, so Checkmate Hardpoint, this is a map that Atlanta FaZe haven't played a lot all year. They're currently sitting at 3-3, so they want to just get more reps on it to be prepared going into that Major 4. So that one's going to be in favor of the Surge here. And then that map number 2 is going to be Raid, Search, and Destroy. And Atlanta FaZe, the only team that I feel like they have struggled with on that map is Toronto. And the fact that they're playing the Surge on that, obviously they're not going up against Toronto, so they're a little bit more confident there. So I'm excited to see that one. But this series can go either way. If the Surge can come out and win map 1, I think the later half of the series between the Control and the next hardpoint, I heavily favor FaZe, but they can come out in this opening hardpoint and just chain that momentum going into the Search and Destroy. I have a feeling that this series might go 5.
All right, man, it's going to be a fun one. As we said, starting off the Florida home series the right way, our first series and our first map. As you mentioned, Atlanta not too prone to playing Checkmate Hardpoint. In fact, I believe it's the first time that they've played it since the Stage 2 Major versus the Ultra. They didn't get the W there, but it has been some time. So, you know, again, we talk about teams expanding the map pool. You and I talked about this quite a bit for Atlanta. That, you know, could at times come back to bite them. Like, you know, we saw them play standoff Search and Destroy. It just so happens to be that Paris looked like the best standoff Search and Destroy team in the league. So maybe you catch a little bit of an advantage here if you are really the opposite side. But how about the start to this hard point? Seattle come in a big way toward top lane and instantly secure spawns for P2. A great way to start this one off. We talk about how important this game 1 hardpoint is versus the Surge. You couldn't ask for a better start than that.
Yeah, they got a nice 4 dead, and they were able to flip those spawns. They ain't gained 20 seconds onto this P1 hardpoint. Now, it's all about just keeping this contested, making sure that you're keeping those spawns for that P2. So you see players playing a little more passive. Gunless and Prestinni still putting down the crossfire inside plane. But so far, job well done out of the Surge. They flip the spawns, they get a good amount of time off of this P1. Now it's all about just trying to set up for that P2, making sure that no one dies off the rotation. Classic drops there, but he's going to hold his cam. Unfortunately, and not spawning in the back, so he doesn't hold his cam there, so the pinch is going to come in, but that's going to be 3 down for Seattle Surge. And now that they have spawns, they just have to locate Cellium towards this back yellow building, start putting some more time on this clock.
A lot easier said than done, but Octane is able to handle business just the right time. Again, Atlanta somewhat frustrated that they did lose those backside spawns, but again, it's Octane laying down the lead there with the Krieg. Atlanta 3 strong now toward the flank. 30 very valuable seconds still left on deck as Prestinni's able to find the first, and a quick double toward the front side as the break will in fact be in from Atlanta. Somewhat of a slower start. They don't get as much time as they would have wanted, but at the very least they are going to be able to get the break and grab those final 15 seconds.
Yeah, so now it's all about just setting up off that rotation, and that's exactly what the Surge are doing. They're trying to trap Atlanta FaZe towards this back P2. Prestinni with a big kill towards that aLLeY. Just making sure that they're holding the players from FaZe in this little corner here and just not giving up that map control. So they're going to start off with the initial time. aBeZy does sneak through Tetris. They're able to get 2. So now this is going to cause some problems for the Surge. It's going to be 3 down. Last player alive is going to be Octane towards back exit. He's able to take down 2 before he drops, and his teammates are able to get back on towards the point. So even with the Surge dropping like flies on that play, they're still able to stay alive with a great play out of Octane to get the 2, start enough time for his teammates to get back on that point.
I know we talked about it in our Keys to Victory stud, but I know you had kind of talked to me a number of different times about how great of a player that you think Classic is. Nicky D kind of has a lot of intangibles for a team, and I think we both agree, like, a team like Seattle, I think, has the ability to benefit more than possibly a roster like Legion did. And you see Octane going 9-4 just to start off this hard point. He had a 1.3 in that series versus LAT. Talk to me, like, what do you think some of the benefits are by adding a player like Classic to the Surge?
So when you're adding a player like Classic to the Surge, like obviously before they made that roster change, they had Looney on here. So before Looney, he was that in-game leader. So when you add a player like Classic to the mix, that's one thing that they were struggling when they released him. And that's what a Classic is so well at doing. He has the past chemistry with Octane, with Gunless, and they've won multiple championships together. But just adding Classic, he's gonna do all the dirty work and just keep the small talk and keep the plays consistent for the team. Make sure everyone's on the same page and just really be that in-game leader for this roster.
I'll tell you what, man, this roster could definitely utilize that skill as they have, you know, like I said, with players like Looney, and at times you can take a hit whenever you lose just the advantage like that. But Octane, 12-4 on the 7 spree, does in fact earn the artillery and could be moments away from grabbing the cruise as well. As 90-53, Surge coming out strong to start this one off. P5 could definitely start to tell somewhat of a different story, but again, they are able to push out the spawns and now have the advantage coming into that hill as well. A few moments away from capturing that century mark here to start off this hard point. We go and step aside and listen with the other side. Let's go to our Astro listening now with Atlanta.
No trophies on time.
Yeah, I'm going back.
No trophies on time.
He's pushing me, he's pushing me.
Yo, from what?
I don't see anything backwards.
In wood.
In wood.
I'll see him wood. I'll see him wood.
I'm sending time. They're gonna be great.
Nice,
text me.
I went top
I'm
lane. Same last year.
I'm front on you.
I top lane.
I got a time.
I top lane.
Chris, I'm playing time with you, bro.
Yep. Top lane.
Chris, I think I'm the interview. Yo, our steps. Nice, Chris, you can push it.
Run hill,
Front now.
Stand.
He's yellowing. Yeah, Pierce is yellowing. He's just holding. He jumped down to yellow crate. Alright, bring this shit back right here.
I'm just staying up new.
I'm gonna help you new.
Yeah, I'm in the room.
I'm coming too.
I'm gonna cut over you. I'm gonna cut over you.
I made it.
Yeah, you're good. I'm
I'm laying down.
Pierce was yellow shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit her long.
Along.
Pierce Nice.
Fuck, this is...
I'm trying to get back.
I got one, I got
I'll
two.
see Pierce.
One
Pierce is great crate. Pierce is great crate.
I'm
He's just spawn trapping. Pierce is great
Yeah,
crate.
try to kill that guy.
I think you're good. Yeah, I'm in the room.
He's on street.
Nice. Watch out.
Okay.
In the room, Sam.
Are you leaving Pierce?
Photo. He's weak.
He's lying down.
I
left him.
Still missing Pierce, right?
Yeah. He's on like a 3 or 4.
Stop
One dead.
I have time.
Big 30 right here.
Wait.
Damn, really weak.
Yo, tube.
Yo, phone time, guys.
Yeah. I got
Pierce is bomb tail.
Nick is weak. One's long. Nick is in 2. Preston's pushing mid long. Preston's pushing mid long, by the way.
Make sure you're playing
I
this time.
spawned backwood.
Bottom
point, Preston.
Exit now.
Yeah, slow down.
Oh, I think dead.
Good kills.
Top yellow Sam, she got spawn kill.
Where's tail?
Or tube.
Can you cross?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Is
No,
he
he's bottom tail, bro.
On team
He's
tube.
just holding bottom tail.
Close right. I'll push right on you.
Pierce weak.
Nice.
Flashing
over you.
CT, I'm trying to cross.
He's back.
He's laying down. There's 2. He got me.
You heard Atlanta calling out streaks, calling a number of different things, just trying to be prepared for what is great map positioning right now from Seattle. I gotta say, with as close of a map that it almost is somewhat surprising, Stud, considering how great that Surge have been playing early on in these money hills, but they've been doing the hard work. It's just been a matter of not being able to get it done down the stretch. But see if Atlanta has the ability to break with these 30 seconds left. A few players wiped off the map, and it appears that these last few are gonna go the way of Seattle once more.
Yeah, so this Atlanta FaZe, they did such a great job of breaking into that P5 and not letting this game get out of hand. So with right now, Surge are only up by at least 30 points if they get this remaining 15. Put them up by 45, but Atlanta FaZe is doing a great job of just keeping them off that time But Seattle, they just had a great hold on that P2. So now the lead is going to grow. That forces Atlanta FaZe to set up off that rotation towards that P3. You see what aBeZy's trying to do. Once again, cause some problems for Seattle. Surge towards that Tetris side. He's able to win that first engagement onto Classic. He's just playing his life. Just wasting time on the clock. Seattle trying to set up a push here. They're not trying to drop single-handedly one by one. So they're waiting for the push to come in. So far, there's no action on the map. This is the quietest that we've ever seen Call of Duty. But Atlanta FaZe are able to take down 3. Prestinni's going to be the last player alive. He's going to drop as well. So a great hold out of the Surge on that P2 turns to another great hold out of FaZe on P3, which we usually don't see often. aBeZy currently on a 5-speed now. Atlanta FaZe only down 10 points. Make it 6 for aBeZy, working towards some streaks.
Oh, and it just does get cut down. An unfortunate life to lose if you are FaZe in that moment. Could have very well had streaks, but they go on, what, like a 9-10 team spree. Nice little sequence there granted for FaZe as they will reclaim spawns. That was for a moment a little bit of a tricky situation there for Atlanta, was the fact that P5 was in favor of the Surge for a moment. But back and forth we go on some checkmate. A nice advantage currently granted for Seattle. But with aBeZy slaying like this, you have to ask yourselves, can this continue? Octane tries to step in, pretty much the only player to try and make somewhat of an impact in that moment, and he gets dealt with. Another team spree coming through, and aBeZy picking up right where he left off. A 4 spree for him, a 4 spree as well for Arcitys. Atlanta climbing their way back as we are contested with 30 left over at P4. But it's Arcitys who loses the big fight versus Octane. A number of different major battles going down throughout the map, but 20 seconds left. Seattle with a minor lead, but P5, those spawns still belong to Atlanta.
Yeah, and they need to try to flip this if you're Seattle. You need to win these engagements, and that's a good opening right there out of Prestinni to get this remaining 10 seconds, put your team up by at least 30 points, but it's all about just trying to pick up these kills and flip these spawns. Atlanta FaZe is going to be fully set up for that P5. One player already on the hill. One player does have plane control. And number 8, which is aBeZy, is going to be sitting in the corner watching that A-long. The streak is going to come in from Octane. Can he try to spot anyone? aBeZy was able to take down a Classic. Streaks in, and unfortunately nothing connects. So Atlanta FaZe are able to get right onto the point. We're going to see a lead change here shortly. But Atlanta FaZe finally having their first lead of the entire game. They're just trying to hold down the pressure from the Surge, but they're able to break in through the front. Kills are going back and forth, and Atlanta FaZe, they slow down the push from the Surge and once again have control.
It's a neck-and-neck hard point separated by what? A good 4 to 5 seconds. Seattle not necessarily starting to scatter, but again, you saw little moments back and forth as you called it, Stud. The SMGs kind of make their way forward, but Atlanta are able to slow down the push. As we head back toward top, it is aBeZy continuing to cause chaos. Cellium, meanwhile, is finding players through the wall. Cabin or not, the other players are having some issues for the moment. Back and forth, 25 left for Atlanta. Can Seattle muster this one back? Octane drops, Gunless is there for the trade. Back and forth we go, my man.
Yeah, back and forth, but Atlanta FaZe are doing a great job of just holding on this P1 to the best of their ability. They only need about 15 seconds left to close this out. You see what Simp's doing? Just applying pressure on the map, able to take 2 down. They can close it out here with 10 seconds remaining, unless the Surge are able to get in and contest it.
Now we'll see if they can possibly muster that up. 7 seconds left for this one to be a FaZe W, but it's Gunless for the first. A quick trade, and now it comes down to Octane. How long can he delay? But he gets stuck. The nade right to the center of the eyes as Prestinni has to pick up right where he left off. But as he falters, can anybody from the Surge get there in time? Gunless running as fast as he can, and he will contest, but aBeZy is there for the clothesline. And what was a very neck-and-neck hard point all the way throughout, it will be Atlanta going big in the later stages, grabbing P5 and grabbing P1 to get the W here on Checkmate.
Yes, that was the difference because we saw it on the very first P5. Seattle Surge, they were set up early. They got them first 30 seconds, but Atlanta FaZe, they were able to break in, gain that remaining 30 seconds, and then tie the game up in the middle of that P1 hard point. It all came down to the play of aBeZy. And that's why I have this guy as one of those MVP candidates going into the end of the year, because just the pacing that he plays at. I'm pretty sure he just went like 30-something and 21. The guy was just on point. And the fact that he's just able to just cause so many problems for the opposite team and doing it with a positive 10 KD with the pressure that he's on the guy's just unreal, man. He wins some gunfights that are just mind-blowing to me, and you gotta just tip the hat to the young man because he's really good at Call of Duty.
Is what finishes off 34 and 24, puts in 5,900 damage. A great game for aBeZy. We talk about checkmate hardpoint oftentimes can be ruled by the ARs. Well, it's this aggro SMG who, of course, once more is able to add another highlight game to what is a very extensive reel at this moment. But big game coming through from aBeZy as Atlanta are able to answer in the opening hardpoint. It is now search and destroy on raid. Can Seattle level the score, or will Atlanta continue in the dominance? We will be back with Raid S&D up right after this.
The Call of Duty League is presented by the US Army. What's your warrior? USAA is made for gamers. Level up your gear protection with USAA Insurance.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, a nice start to the day. Atlanta FaZe getting the job done, specifically aBeZy getting the work done toward the later stages of that checkmate hardpoint. Goes big for the roster, and now Atlanta find themselves up quite firmly, I guess we could say, Study, so far throughout this series. You and I have talked constantly about Atlanta. We actually were talking to the break for just a moment during the commercial, and it's just a matter of, like, I feel like Atlanta sometimes can get put in these tricky situations, but it's Arcitys, it's Cellium, it's Simp, it's aBeZy, who just one of them tends to go off, goes on a spree, and then from there, the entire game gets turned around.
And that's what's so scary about this team, is that when three players are not putting up the performance that we expect them to, there's always that one guy. There's always that one guy that's going to be able to go off for this team. And just looking at these KDs after the first two matches of each stage, everyone's over a 1.0 KD. This is kind of scary. Just look at stage 3. That is their lowest performance right there, because obviously throughout stage 3, they were playing a lot of maps that they were just trying to get better at. But the fact that consistently these guys are over 1.0 KD as a team in every stage, it just shows that these guys have no weakness, man. They're the best team in the game for a reason.
They absolutely are, and they show that. Like I said, in that checkmate hardpoint, I know we talk about kind of individuals, but it's overall this individual aspect that also caters into the teamwork. There's a number of different ways that they can attack you, and we talk about KDs. I mean, I know that doesn't tell the entire story, but throughout the entirety of the CDL so far, they lead in hardpoint KD, they lead in search and destroy KD, and they lead in control KD. So with that in mind, it is kind of terrifying, I guess, if you are any team to face off against this roster. But against that, getting into the search and destroys now, of course, we are headed to raid in specific for this one. And I believe I think you talked about it at the top of the show, FaZe, really the only team that they've struggled with is the Ultra. And you did that without even researching. I actually went back. I was like, you know, that sounds right. It's true. They have lost 4 times on raid, 3 of those losses to the Ultra. The only other loss that they have is to New York in a round 11. So the only team that's been able to figure them out is Toronto. Can Seattle do that now? A hard task without a doubt as Atlanta starting things off on attack.
Yeah, so on this map, Atlanta, like you said, they have 4 losses, so they're sitting at 5-4. On the opposite side, you have the Surge, who are 2-4. Prestinni opens up with the first blood, Classic with the trade, and just like that, the Surge, they just come out and punch FaZe right in the mouth in that very first round, and they're able to walk away with that defensive hold, now up 1-0.
I do like the aggressiveness, man. I like the aggressiveness, because that exact phrase that you just mentioned was a phrase that aBeZy used once whenever they were facing off against the Ultra. He's like, hey, they came out and they basically just punched us. We didn't have the time to react, so at the very least, you know, if you are the Surge, answering early in that defense as Gunless is able to find 2 in the round, and I'll see what Seattle have up their sleeves. Again, they did lose both of the Search and Destroys versus Thieves. I believe what? It was a 6-3 on standoff and a 6-1 on raid. So with that in mind, somewhat familiar with this, maybe gone back to the drawing board and have ironed a few things out. The nade toward Røkkr, definitely going to weaken a few players up, and with that, Cellium does go for the challenge. He finds the first and also takes down Prestinni. A quick challenge in from Octane is to look to level the score, but it is already Gunless left in a 1 versus 2 position known, brought down low in HP. The Big Pierce is at times full of clutch potential, and he gets the nice jump shot there onto aBeZy. Starting things off 4-0. Can he pull this one off?
With 40 seconds left, he has to work towards that bomb. And right now, Cellium has no information of where Gunless can possibly be. So with 30 seconds remaining, eventually this bomb has to get planted, but Cellium, he's playing that 50-50, making sure that he's staying towards this B-bomb site. I think he was able to spot him there towards that white van area. So now the engagement is going to be in. Gunless trying to challenge from the top. Great shots, and is able to walk away with the round in a 1v2 situation. The first kill on aBeZy was amazing, and then he takes his time to slowly work around the map to gain some more map control, jump towards that top raid, and is able to outposition Cellium right there in that 2v1. Huge Ryan right there out of Gunless to clutch up and now put his team up 2-0.
Big P with the clutch, and obviously, like we said, starting things off 5-0. A great beginning there for him as Surge grabbed the first 2. I mean, what, in that 1 versus 1 situation, Stud, do you feel like Cellium maybe should have used some better trigger discipline?
No, well, it's just difficult because Gunless, he was just in such a great position that he just took the map to him. Like, the fact that he was stuck on that white van, Cellium knows that a wall bang can come in on both angles. But just the fact that Gunless went on top of raid, just got a different angle on towards him, hit him with a couple better shots. It's just really difficult from that position to try to pick up that kill on towards top raid, so Gunless was able to walk away with it. But right there, Cellium was able to answer with 2. So now in a 3-2 situation, the Surge need to try to retake. The bomb plant is going to go down for Atlanta FaZe. Now Gunless working towards some streaks, already 6-0. He's trying to find the 7th, but his life is valuable. I think even if you lose this round right here, if your teammate dies, you just stay alive if you're Gunless, because streaks can really change this map.
Oh, when he tosses out the utility!
And that's unfortunate.
Oh my goodness, that has to hurt if you're the Surge and they pick up Octane as well. A 2 versus 3 that, again, you're looking at Atlanta, cool, they grabbed the round, but what a difference that could have made. Gunless was able to grab the streaks. That would have just been 3 rounds of play. It just feels like it's been Cellium versus Gunless so far throughout these first 3 rounds of raid, but Gunless finally does end up getting taken down, and FaZe are able to answer. You see, what, 6-1 from Gunless, 5-2 from Cellium. What, every other player on the map has 1 kill, Stud. Every other player. It is literally Cellium versus Gunless so far.
So far, it's a good show. You know, you have your flex players going at it right now, so Seany, we have seen that spot way too many times, and I know Atlanta FaZe are not going to give that one up easy. aBeZy is able to open up with the first blood, now forces it to a 3v4 for the Surge, and this is a map that they need to take, because we know that the struggles that they have had in control, if you go into that control, not tied at least 1-1 to extend the series, it's going to be really difficult for the Surge to try to bounce back, but first blood is going to go to FaZe. The bomb plant is coming in from Surge on towards that B-bomb. No indication that nade going to get a hit marker, but aBeZy is able to immediately trade that. So now they have full bomb control. They know that both players from the Surge have to be on their side of the map. Octane's able to get 1, so now it's a 3v2 situation, and Gunless with the trade. So now they know where Octane is. 30 seconds left. He has to try to finesse. And I think he's done just that, but unfortunately, the Tiny Terrors, they both slide out the window. Really difficult to gunfight one of them, but if both of them are challenging you at the same time, it's automatically going to be a trade. And Atlanta FaZe, they take the retake and close out the round.
It was so funny, like you just noticed at the end. Did he just make that? No, he didn't. He didn't just make that, right? I was looking away for a moment.
No,
okay, I was going to say, if he makes that on top of also winning the round, maybe they get another one on top of that. Regardless, though, it was funny because I think just looking at the ground, like, okay, where are these guys at? I know they just took down Gunless. They've got to be below me. But unfortunately, not the case. As you said, the Tiny Tears getting the nice retake and quickly answer at 2-2. And it just kind of gets me back to that conversation, man, of that control for Seattle. Like, how much importance this now puts on the S&D if you don't win the hard point, or even vice versa. Like, we talk about a team that is struggling so much in a particular mode. I think they're like 3-17 in control on the season. It just continues to echo how important it is to be a consistent roster. And, you know, we've seen teams at times try to master it, but oftentimes the rosters that do kind of sit toward the bottom of the standings, it does come down to that one game mode. And so far for Seattle, it has been that pesky game 3. His bomb plant may in fact be red. Prestinni taking down his twin brother Arcitys. Also lays down the trophy with enough time, but aBeZy quickly trying to go for the instant retake, trying to pick up from where his fallen comrade left off, as now we're left in a 4 versus 2. Advantage for Surge, and really the only scary part for both of these teams is that we got Gunless alive and we still have Cellium. A much more difficult spot as Cellium's able to win it versus Gunless, a duel that we'll see quite a bit more, but it will be Surge with the overall man advantage, and they grab their 3rd.
And that one kind of hurts if you're Atlanta, because you throw that tactical, you try to gain some information if a player is going to be sitting towards the back of this B-bomb site. And Prestinni, since he was on the 2nd level, basically hopped up just prone behind that rock. That flash does not indicate that he is there. So as soon as that flash comes in, he's able to trade that bomb player, put his team in an advantage, throws a trophy on himself. Eventually, his teammates come to help him, and that was just great execution right there out of the Surge. Atlanta FaZe, that one's going to hurt. But now the Surge are on offense. It's going to look like it's going to be a fast push on towards this B-bomb. Seany is going to be taking his Michael Phelps straight through the water, opened up with the first blood onto his twin brother. aBeZy with the trade, so just like that, it went from a 4v3 to a 3v3. With bomb being down, Seattle, one player has to get out of position, but Simp, he hits the cut, able to get towards top window, all left up to Gunless. He's been having himself a map, but you have Cellium on the map, you have the Tiny Terrors. This is going to be a difficult task to get done.
Just trying to get an angle, just trying to find out where the first gun engagement can happen. aBeZy goes for the quick little challenge, but Julie just trying to set up his teammates. As you said, Gunless, a 9-3 game. Played so well, but a 1 versus 3. And this was just not going to go his way. You see him starting to get somewhat captured. There we go. Kind of the way that this round ends is also the way that it started. An aggressive beginning there for Seattle. You saw what Prestinni making his way through water. Gets the nice first blood there on the Arcitys, but it's the flank through water steps. It's the flank through back cutout where Simp is able to line up a few. Just when you like Seattle's chances to get up and aggressive, get in your face, it's Atlanta that are thinking ahead. As it's Simp who walks away with 3 in the round. And speaking of 3s, we got ourselves up all tied up at 3-3. And I guess if you're Seattle, you're liking the way that they've been able to keep up so far throughout this game, Stud. But we'll see how they can continue to be problematic. As Gunless once more in the opening engagement is able to find it there versus aBeZy.
So he gets that first blood, so now Seattle know that they had the information. Simp with some great shots onto Classic, not able to get the second. But Arcitys is able to spot Octane, so the team shots are going to come in, and just like that, it goes from a 3v2 to a 2v2. Gunless is still in towards this money window area. Prestinni is going to be holding the middle map towards that P5. But they're trying to get aggressive towards Gunless. 2 baddies playing an off angle, able to spot Cellium. Now it's all left up to Arcitys in a 1v2 situation.
We did this not long ago. How great has Arcitys been in these clutch moments recently for Atlanta? Seems he's leading in KD. He's had the biggest change up from stage 2 to stage 3 for his team. Not able to get it done there. I believe it once more. It was Gunless putting in the work as he and Prestinni able to win out in the family affair. It was Cellium with the best play, but once more, Seattle being crafty. And what, to kind of start off the season, Stud, Seattle, this was their backbone game mode. Like, they kind of struggled in a number of different areas, but Search and Destroy was really where they found their grit. And I guess if you talk about composition, Classic kind of fills in a role similar to Looney in terms of what he's able to do for the roster. And that very well could be kind of a similar makeup, which has allowed for this team to be better in this mode in particular.
Yeah, definitely, man. Classic's just doing the dirty work. Like I said, he's that bomb carrier. He's going to be the player that's watching flanks and just initiating the pushes for the Surge. So the bomb is going to go down towards B, but the only difference is you have aBeZy who's working that late flank. He's able to spot Prestinni. Is he able to read this play? He's going to check it. But Prestinni with some great shots, able to win that engagement, force it to a 3v3 situation. With 25 seconds left, Atlanta FaZe, they need to start putting on the pressure towards his bedroom area, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Cellium able to get that kill onto Gunless, but time is starting to tick. They need to try to locate both players. Prestinni's going to get that trade. Now it's Simp in a 1v1 versus Prestinni. He's able to win it. Now it's all about playing the clock correctly versus his twin brother. You had me last time, but I'm going to come out on top this time. Prestinni's able to clutch up the 1v2 situation and now put his team at 5-3.
How about the plays from Prestinni? We talked about it to start off the day. Classic comes onto this team. It just kind of continues to put the other three in a spotlight. How can they perform? Now with one of the most unselfish players in the game now on their team, and they've stepped up in a number of different ways. This time around, it was Prestinni. I believe finds 3 in the round, and well, he isn't able to find, like you said, his good old twin brother Arcitys. It was the round victory nonetheless, as Seattle now finding themselves in commanding position 5-3. A lot of pressure going down toward B. I feel like we've even yet to see the A bomb in our last, what, good 5 or 6 rounds. But here we go again. This time it's the ARs. Arcitys and Cellium putting in the work early. And it will come down once more to the ARs to try and get the job done. A quick 2v4 here for the Surge.
Simp's going to win a great gunfight onto Octane, so now it's a 1v4 situation for Gunless. He's having himself a map currently sitting at 12-5, but 1v4 situation is a really difficult task to get done. Some great shots. Unfortunately, Arcitys with better. He's able to walk away with that engagement. And that was one thing, is that when I was looking at the stats for Atlanta FaZe, Arcitys was sitting at 1-5, and he's one of the more consistent S&E players that we have in the game. It was only a matter of time to see him just start picking up kills, and he's able to find 2 on that round. That puts him at 4-6. And now they're staying alive, with the Surge still only 1 round away from closing this out.
I'm going to ask you, right? Surge find themselves up 5-3. Now it's 5-4. What do you want to see Seattle do now in this offense? How do they close it out in this round, Stud?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would like to see them go towards B, but they're going to change this up and completely catch Atlanta FaZe off guard. So they're going to commit towards this A-bomb site. They're taking control of ring, but Cellium, some great shots on the Octane, is able to get the first blood, so he knows that the pressure is going to be on him. So about just trying to get out with your life, and he's able to do so. Sets up his teammate in Arcitys. Such a great bait and switch right there. So now it's a 4v2 situation, but Gunless knows if Simp's coming, aBeZy's got to be there as well. So now he's able to back down. Now in a 3v2 situation, the challenge is going to come in, and Cellium takes down Classic, takes down Gunless, and just like that, Atlanta FaZe forced it to around 11.
Oh man, just when we talk about what can the Surge do. 5-3 down to 5-5, and of course, it is MC putting in the work toward the end of the round. We gotta see what the KDs are. What, 13-7 for Gunless, 12-6 for Cellium. Obviously, you've seen the impact of other players on the map. Obviously, for the Surge, maybe not as consistent, but here we go into the round 11. Can it be 3 straight for FaZe? It is back to the offensive side. It's Cellium once more. 13-6, his 5th kill in a row. As Seattle somewhat hobbling their way over to A, and that push in some ways has been stopped. It's been silenced for the moment, and with this position that Simp has, he could easily cause some problems. He's got players watching his back towards Zig. Classic, with the loss of Prestinni, doesn't have that fast SMG to work with. He's not going to have as much information to go off of, and that's why the push has halted the way that it has so far, Stud. You see Classic, he's just not confident yet.
Yeah, Atlanta FaZe, they just have map control. And you see the Surge players, especially at number 4 in Gunless, he's just trying to be anticipating one of the players from Atlanta FaZe to hit that flank. But with 30 seconds left, eventually the bomb has to start getting work towards that A site. You see both players from Atlanta FaZe backing up, making sure that they're keeping control of jungle, keeping control of that tree, because they're going to try to do this on a 4v3 retake. They're allowing that bomb to get planted, but the pinch is going to come in. So with 45 seconds left, Seattle are down a man. See how Atlanta decide to approach this. They're going to have 3 players pushing towards back laundry. Unfortunately, Gunless not able to close out on that kill, but Simp is here. And now the trade is in. Simp with some great shots, trying to find the dirt into Gunless. But don't worry, Cellium's going to be there. And just like that, Atlanta FaZe are able to rally 3 rounds in a row to close out map number 2. And now put them up 2-0 in the series. Just a great performance from Atlanta FaZe in that Search and Destroy in those final moments.
Again, it's in the clutch moments. You said 3 rounds straight, and how poetic, right? It comes down to the final engagement. Simp, of course, having one of the bigger impacts of the round, but it is Cellium versus Gunless. Obviously had the support of the team, but a battle that went all the way throughout the Search and Destroy goes continually the way of FaZe. They just continue to answer stud in these big moments. We start to count them out in the hard point, they bring it back. We count them out in the Search and Destroy, and they're able to bring it back once more. A 4-game losing streak on Raid, Search and Destroy, and now we come into a control up next, my friend, which has treated Seattle by no means kindly so far throughout the year.
Yeah, and it really hasn't, man. Now that they lose that map number 2, they're 0-2 once again in the series, going into their worst game mode, which they're 3-17 on the year. And just going back into that S&D, when they were on their offensive pushes, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, don't take that, but we didn't see them go towards that A-bomb the entire game, and then the last 2 offensive pushes, they decided to be committed towards it, and it just really hurt them right there. They probably would have went towards B, because that's the thing that Atlanta FaZe were really struggling with shutting down. They'd probably be able to close it out, but they call that play call. It was completely different, and Atlanta FaZe, perfect counter, able to close it out with 3 straight.
Absolutely, my friend. Like we said, just in these big moments, Atlanta, they've been able to respond so far, of course, now finding themselves up 2-0. But kind of on topic with that Search and Destroy, let's go and take a look at our U.S. Army tactical play. This one coming in round 11. So we talked about what Seattle did wrong. Tell me, what did Atlanta do right in this particular round?
So right here, once again, they take control of that middle map, but they have that number 8 player, which is aBeZy, takes control of water steps. So once he spots that no players are there, Cellium from that back laundry is able to open up with the first blood. So the fact that they're keeping water steps, they're keeping mid-map control, they know exactly where Seattle Surge are trying to execute this play. So they let the bomb go down towards that A-bomb. They allow the retake to come in. They fully commit 3 players towards the backside of laundry. And this is where Simp completely throws him off guard, because he's able to run out the side, able to get 2, and then it's all left up to Gunless in a 1v4 situation. The trade comes in, and Atlanta FaZe, they just took their time. No one got overzealous. No one tried to be an individual playmaker. And they retake it properly in a 4v3 situation.
Like we said, it was Cellium with 14. It was also in the later stages, Gunless with 14. Just all about the teammate support as a big W yet again here in the Atlanta FaZe camp as they find themselves up 2-0. It is a control on Garrison. Can Seattle finally end out this streak? It's been 8 losses in a row in control. Can today be where they change it up, or will FaZe continue to parade in what will possibly be a 3-0? Make sure to stay with us, as it is Gary Control right up after this.
Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. Scuff, the official controller of the Call of Duty League. Seany, the official eyewear for the CDL. Armor your eyes with Seany Blocks blue light protection glasses by visiting seany.com/gaming.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Florida Home Series. It is day one in Series 1, and it's time to talk a little bit more about Seattle Surge. Stud, they find themselves in the hole down 0-2. A big advantage in the hard point for a moment, a 5-3 advantage in the search and destroy, yet they were not able to walk away with it. But when we talk about kind of the mixture of this team, it also kind of follows in that same pattern. At times great, at times they begin to falter. You notice the major difference from, stage 1 to stage 3. The stage 2, of course, was a great one for them. We think, hey, maybe things are starting to turn around, and they come into stage 3, and it was not all the case.
Yeah, definitely wasn't, man. Stage 1 obviously was the learning point for this team. Stage 2, they were showing improvements. Then stage 3 is when that roster change came in. Everything was just not clicking for the Surge, so obviously his stats are looking a little different, but you can just tell when Prestinni's not playing well, Gunless is not playing well, and both of those guys are basically a 1-2 punch. They need to be playing consistent for this team to have success, and now they find themselves in a situation where they're down 0-2 going into their worst game mode to try to win this one, and it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore, of course, our Scuff quick scope 3-17 control record. And I want to ask you, Stud, from your perspective, of course, longtime professional player, what do you think that the comms are right now in the Surge camp? You're coming into a control. I mean, do you think that there is the kind of this added pressure coming into a mode like this, or do you think that it's more of a matter of hey, we've lost as much as we have, it's just a matter of trying to get a W? Where do you think the mindset is for Seattle now that they come into a control versus the best team in the mode?
Yeah, I don't think that they have, any pressure on them because, like you said, they are the worst team in the game mode. So, if they win it, it'll be a miracle. It'll be a surprise because they've just been struggling with it the entire year. You said it. They're going up against the best team in this game mode for Atlanta FaZe, and the only thing that's a bright spot for the Seattle Surge is that the 3 wins they have in control are all on Garrison.
Hey.
So they have to be feeling really confident to at least get it here. But Atlanta FaZe, they're 10-3 on this map. Just the pressure that they were able to put on in that map number 1, specifically aBeZy, he needs to be shut down on this map for a Seattle Surge to stay alive here.
Oh man, here we go, into the Garrison. Talk about how there is no pressure on this team. It's just a matter of just trying to turn the tide a little bit. And the reason why I ask is really just because there's just been so much talk, right, on the Seattle roster, just in regards to, it's an 8-game losing streak, it's an 8-game loss streak in control, or 0-8 on raid, control, just a number of different things. And I guess at times, it is always interesting to kind of know how the social media side of things, how even just the overall talk around things can kind of influence players from moment to moment. But as we said for FaZe, rock solid in these clutch moments to start, as coming into this game 3, Garrison control for them has treated them quite nicely. A 10-3 record on this map. He's already into the thick of things. FaZe for a moment looking pretty good, trying to go for the defense is Octane as he'll walk away with a nice double. 30 seconds left. Atlanta got to make a push here soon.
Yeah, so the Surge, they have done such a great job at just keeping the pressure on, keeping the map control in their favor, and just forcing Atlanta FaZe to try to win engagements in uncomfortable positions. And they were able to find 3, so now the opening is going to be towards that B point. But Gunless able to find 2. He's going to continue. That clock on ticking. 13 seconds remaining. You see Arcitys. He's going to have to try to slow this down, win a couple engagements towards this A point. Able to win the first. The pinch is going to come in from the top, and he sets up his teammate perfectly. So that's going to be 3 down. Progression coming in towards this A point. The first tick is in, and you see what Atlanta FaZe are doing. They're committed to closing this one out because it's a lot easier to cap that B point solo. So they're going to have multiple people here. That's another 3 down. And when we thought that the Surge had a great defensive hold, Atlanta FaZe are able to break through. Arcitys having himself a map already on a 6 spree. They have that time already gained from that A point. They have a 7 live advantage, and progression is already coming in towards that B point.
Gunless is trying to save the point right now. He's the farthest pushed up player. He drops and now quickly comes on to Octane. Nearly 2 ticks through, pulls out the SMG, and unfortunately he's not able to make that work either. Just 1 more tick away for this round going the way of Atlanta as they stack it, and it will go their way once more. We cannot talk about it enough. It is the late stages. It's these final pushes that Atlanta just continue to win. And I'll be honest with you, Stud, like when Arcitys was initially at this point, it was a quick 1 versus 2, and it just seemed as if like nobody was aware of the fact they know that he's grabbing time, but nobody looks in his direction. You got 2 players, both of them looking toward top green. That play sets up what would be kind of a rolling effect over at that point, and then echoes into the other side of the map. Just little moments once more where you just see the teamwork from Seattle just not being on point in these big moments.
Yeah, so yeah, in that 2v1 situation, Octane, he came out of that side bricks area, was just basically watching towards top green, but he was allowing his teammate to try to put that pressure on towards back tank, but Arcitys did such a great time at stalling the time and allowing his teammates to eventually jump towards top green and set up that pinch. But you already see, on this offensive put for the Surge, they start off with 3 kills, early progression on towards this B point. The Atlanta FaZe, they're able to slow that down with 3 players going in their favor. Last player is going to be Classic on towards that B point. The contest is going to be in. Classic is going to drop in. Just when we thought that the Surge were going to be able to extend this clock by an extra minute, Atlanta get in.
Simp doing the nice dirty work as well, removing the trophies. Based on how good the trophies are, man, I think that you might have to add those into the kill streaks from time to time. They are...
Possibly.
They
do so much
dastardly.
damage.
At least give like a 0.5, you know, at that point. But all jokes aside, Surge maybe starting to stack over toward this B point, ever close. Securing this one over at B. Trophies or not, Prestinni will be there to celebrate what is a point captured, but minute 48 on the clock. Oftentimes on Garrison, we do see that B point cap first, and it's really just a matter of how can you find that look over at A. Is it going to be toward top green, or can it be on the flank toward bricks? A well-seasoned team in Atlanta continuing to hold on to live that mid-map presence. Simp falls, and that could potentially be one of the groundwork kills to set up a nice little flank here from Surge.
Yeah, and the Surge are trying to commit around this backside towards bricks. They're sending all 4 players. That number 4 player in Gunless is just making sure the pinch doesn't come in from top green. But Classic able to open up the first onto Simp. Gonna spawn him all the way out towards that back tank area. So now the pressure has to come in. They cannot allow Simp to get back into this play. He's able to get 1. And now the last 2 players from the Surge are going to be in their base. Classic's going to drop, so it's all left up to Prestinni. He has to try to stall some time. He has to try to just finesse his way around this back area. Unfortunately, Cellium is going to spot him and win that engagement. So all the map control that the Surge just had just got shut down, and now it's time to put on the pressure if you're Atlanta FaZe.
It is indeed. Maybe it's Arcitys' turn to begin to erupt. Tosses out the nade. Always a fun battle to watch, but it's Arcitys who's able to win this particular battle versus Prestinni. Now sitting on 4 in a row. 25 seconds left for Surge. Can they even get past the 50-yard line? Classic with the best potential to do it. Very well may have found the lane. Makes his way in toward top green, and now all Arcitys can do is really just watch from a distance, just fire out a few shots, but it's Cellium there for the quick reply. Finds the double, and now Prestinni having to lead the way for the crew. Now it all comes down to Gunless, the search and destroy battle that transfers to the control. And speaking of it, it is all around dominance from Atlanta toward the stretch, all around dominance for Cell.
They just do such a great job at just holding that first push. And they do an even better job at once they shut down that push, they take complete map control. They force the Seattle Surge players to come off spawn and have to worry about Arcitys, have to worry about aBeZy, who was all the way pushed up towards that bottom floating tank. And it was just really difficult because Atlanta FaZe, they don't make many mistakes. And the time where they allowed that player to go through that backside bricks, open up that first blood, the pinch needs to be there a little faster for the Surge. Unfortunately, they allow Simp to come off spawn, get back into the play, get a kill, and then eventually shuts down that push for the Seattle Surge. So they find themselves down 2-0 in the series. Now, down 2-0 in this map number 3. They need to just come alive, man. They need to show improvements in this game mode.
It's just so hard right when you're facing off against a team like Atlanta, who've won their last 6 controls, and and I think in those 6 victories, rather in their last 8 victories, a good majority of those have been 3-0s as well. 9-1 in their last 10, I'm being told. So again, just
They're taking A again.
And an easy thing to try to overcome.
They're doing the hard stuff. They're doing the hard things right off the rip. And this is not what we see teams do often. We don't see teams commit towards the 8-point like the way Atlanta FaZe have done now on 2 different offenses. So now the Surge, that's going to be another 2 down. They're allowing FaZe to just early get on towards this B point. aBeZy's winning this gunfight all the way across the map. Make it 2, but Classic, he's able to shut down the players from Atlanta FaZe on towards that point. The streaks are coming in. Keep in mind, Cellium still does have that artillery, and this is looking really bad right now for the Surge.
It is indeed, my friend. That was a great call. I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? They're doing the hard stuff. They know that they have the ability to take over that 8-point. You just kind of tell, like, they have the slaying freedom. They know that they have the ability to do things because of the players that they have on this team. By the way, Cellium, nice little 9 spree. You know, we just don't really kind of point out things as often as we should. 9 in a row for Cell. Took over in the search and destroy and has continued on into this mode as well. See if he can make it 10. We've seen quite a few sprees actually on Garrison, and thank you for the 10th. Reaches double digits, and is that the kill that puts the nail in the coffin? Here to this series, into this map. A few players trying to make their way from green. Octane in from lights. Octane wins the initial battle, but that's 2 ticks through. aBeZy's there for the help and the support. Moments away from this series being done. The Seattle collapse, possibly onto the point. It could very well come down to aBeZy. He's grabbing time, goes for the quick challenge, but greeted by 2 other players of the Surge. It just feels like we're just moments away from this one being locked up, but Seattle continued to battle. And what a moment this could be for the Surge if they were able to secure this round, but Classic gets dropped from the back again. Once more, it comes onto the shoulders of Octane. Pulling down lights, gun, Cellium.
Shots.
And with that makes things that much more difficult, but it's the flank. It's the tiny tears and assistance, as that's going to be the 3rd for Simp. And could that be the 3rd round? Gunless lighting it up himself. And has it finally been the time with 2 lives left? It will be a 3-0 in control and a 3-0 in the series for Atlanta.
They're just too good, man. They're just way too good, man. They just come in and handle business. They play maps that they're not really comfortable with, like that Checkmate Hardpoint, like the Raid S&D, which is the only one that majority of the time they lost to Toronto. But it's just hard, man, because Atlanta FaZe is just way too good. It was David versus Goliath here, and the Goliath walks away on top, man. As we expected, that's going to be the 10th sweep on the season for Atlanta FaZe. These guys are just insane, man, from top to bottom. And the fact that throughout that map number 3, they were doing the hard things first. They went out and got 8-point right off the rip, not once, but twice. And they forced the Seattle Surge to basically just not fight for map control, just to force themselves out of bricks to win those engagements. And it allowed FaZe to just pick up some streaks, pick up some early time, and then eventually execute both offensive rounds beautifully, man. It was great to see from Atlanta FaZe in this 3-0 series.
It's so much like, it's so interesting to see the stats, team, because it's just, you know, there's so many different results that you can take with Atlanta. We start with their 2nd straight 6-0, or rather their 2nd straight 3-0. I mean, just a number of different things. But for Seattle, on the more bitter end, 9-match losing streak. An unfortunate loss here is what I think that they tie the 2nd highest losing streak in CDL history. Paris had 9 back in MW, and I believe it was Minnesota who had 10 back in Modern Warfare as well. But a bitter end, way to lose that one for Surge. And I want to ask you, Stud, as we take a look at this final scorecard here, as we kind of reflect back on this series, what's the headline? Like, what's the tweet? Obviously, you know, for those analysts out there, what's the tweet? What's the headline after a series like this, specifically on the Surge end?
On the Surge end, I guess the headline you gotta be is like, we're currently dead last in the league. We're not good at search and destroy. We're not good at control. We might be world's worst. Exactly, right there. We might be world's worst. And right now, the Seattle Surge, they're not clicking, man. Their S&D's not on point. They were up 5-3. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They should have committed towards that B-bomb a little bit more. And then in that control, they just show what we expected out of these guys. They're the worst team that we have throughout this game mode, and it's just not been good from the Surge, and they're still sitting at 50 points all the way in the 12th spot. It's not looking good for them trying to head towards the end of the year at Champs.
It's definitely not, my friend. A hard loss to have, especially when it's on a new roster change, things of that nature. But we have to revisit that last control, of course, for our scuff play of the game. And but a guy that we've been talking about a number of different times recently for this Atlanta FaZe team has been Arcitys. And he once again is the player kind of the moment. We talked about this earlier round. This is kind of the play that we were breaking down. 2 players looking toward green, and really this was kind of the echo effect throughout this round. Stud from here. Arcitys is able to secure the kills. He's able to obviously walk away with the time alongside of the teammates. And then A would then go into B. And then from there, it was the spiral.
Yeah, it was all just Arcitys just taking control of top green, getting on to this point. And eventually, like you said, both players from the Surge coming out of inner bricks, focusing towards top green, just allowed his teammates to be able to jump up there and get that trade. And then Arcitys was never contested on towards that point, so he was able to pick up some streaks, able to close at that point, basically by himself.
I didn't hear you.
And it was just really difficult, man, because the Surge, they had opportunities, they just couldn't execute at the end.
Fortunately, not able to execute here. As you see, Atlanta, like we said, 3 wins to start off stage 4. Still have the Thieves and the Røkkr to face off against. And obviously for the Surge side, not looking as clean when we talk about the way that they have started things off. Of course, they dropped that series versus LA Thieves. That one goes down to a game 5. They dropped the 3-0 here, and still have Røkkr, OpTic, and Legion to face off against to kind of keep in mind how important the group is. We talked about a number of different victories. Starting off 0-2, though, can really start to cause some problems when we talk about what is needed. You kind of need to reach that 3 map to be able to secure things. But it is the ever happy Alec getting the nice W there. Love to see it. It is Lottie, joined alongside by Arcitys when we come back after the break.
The Call of Duty League is brought to you by GameFuel. Unlock a CDL team pack with any purchase on gamefuel.com/CDL while supplies last. Offer ends on August 31st. Tournament audio and team listen-ins are powered by Astro Gaming, the official headset and mix amp of the Call of Duty League.
Hello everybody and welcome to your GameFuel Victory Spotlight. Joining me, I have the captain of the ship of Atlanta FaZe. I got Arcitys on the mic. Arcitys, first of all, congratulations on the big dub yet again. It is so great to see you back in the chair for another winner interview, and I always love having you on board here. And I want to dig deep in the brain of the captain here. I got to know, obviously, the veto system that you guys had against Surge. You threw in a few maps that maybe aren't your strongest. They're not looking bad, don't get me wrong, but they're not your strongest in the vetoes. I got to know, are you extending that map pool to be a little bit deeper on the road to the next major? You know, what is kind of the tactic behind that?
Oh, of course, but have you seen my brother on APOC? I'm not trying to deal with that right now, so obviously Checkmate Hardpoint, we haven't seen them play that much. We haven't played that much, but we're obviously like, we like that map a lot, but obviously the main focus was APOC recently. So we just been getting rid of Checkmate over and over, but again, Prestinni on APOC is different, so he's a different beast.
That is very true. And speaking of Prestinni as well, we always love talking to you about your brother. What is it like to play against him? Does it add a little bit of extra fuel on the fire when you do match up?
I mean, yeah. Did you see last year? That was a fun.
I did.
So
I was there.
I'm making sure we're not going all the way up there right now. So we're keeping it down here. We're not gonna get emotional. We're not gonna do that. I call him Prestinni in game now because screw him. But nah, it's just we got the crybaby stuff out of the way. We're competitive people. We just want to be the best team we can, and I have nothing but respect for the CL Surge. Absolutely.
You know what? Last year had me crying too, Alex. So we can't be doing that again. My makeup can't handle that type of stuff. But I'll tell you what. In our open today, we actually talked about MVP candidates, and tell you what, all of us had at least one FaZe player up there. So I got to know from your perspective, who's the MVP? Do you think of your team?
Which day? Which day of the week is it? What, today's Thursday?
I feel you, bro.
Sunday I got Cell. Saturday I got Chris. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're all talented. They all take turns going off. Obviously, like the first 2 maps I didn't do that good, so I said, Gary, control. Let me step it up for you guys real quick. Give him a little wink, you know.
I love it. Of course, that's what they need, Alex. That's what they need. I appreciate that, and that is why you guys are the best of the best. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And I don't think I need to wish you luck at this point, but go on and do what you guys do best.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. We've heard from himself, Arcitys. I absolutely love speaking to this guy. He always brings something fresh to the table here. Hope you guys are enjoying the ride right now, but don't worry, it's not stopping anytime soon. We have another banger coming up after this break. We got LAG taking on Dallas Empire. It is time to step things up with this match. Is it going to go all the way? We'll find out after the break.
Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. Scuff, the official controller of the Call of Duty League. Seany, the official eyewear for the CDL. Armor your eyes with Seany Blocks blue light protection glasses by visiting seany.com/gaming.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to day 1 of the Florida home series. We just got done with a quick series. We're hoping for a much better one. It's a good old grudge match between the Dallas Empire and the LA Guerrillas. It's Lano and Standy guiding you guys through the action. But before we kind of dive deeper into this, we got to talk primarily about Dallas. Standy, coming into this particular series, you see the first 3 major results. They go from 2nd to 3rd, and then at the last major, they finish top 8. I feel like one of the major talking points coming into this series is a matter of, can they find their footing now with Vivid? How important is this series, and then trying to achieve that goal of finding their footing?
I feel like this is a really important series, not only for the Dallas Empire, but for a player like Vivid. He's going up against his old team in LAG. He knows all the ins and outs, all the play calls, everything. So he should be able to go positive this series. Because so far, the guys had a 0.6 for this team, and it just hasn't been good. You need to be that Slayer submachine gun that makes this team great. Because when they put out Hook, they expected Felony to come in, or at least iLLeY to switch that role, but then they get Felony out of here. They bring back Vivid, and now Vivid, he has to be able to perform. He needs to be one of those SMG players that are able to put up those numbers, and a match like this today versus his old team can definitely be the spark of it.
Without a doubt, my friend, very well laid out, and now it's time to go ahead and meet our teams. The first one we're going to be taking a look at, of course, is your defending world champions. We talked about the Dallas Empire, their third match with Vivid. They're looking to try and be crowned once again, but there's many hurdles and in trying to achieve what is a very, very difficult title. But again, let's go and meet the roster. A big series for them, the Dallas Empire.
Dallas Empire have smashed the gates open.
Fellow with the round one ace. Oh, it's a shot punch. Oh no!
Once again, they saved the day.
And there you have it, your Dallas Empire. I mean, what's that? It's a number of different ways we could go about this. We start with the new addition of Vivid, now his third series with the team. We've talked about the stats. I'm sure everybody's probably aware of it now. Not a great start for Dallas, and despite going 1-1, we start with the recent loss from the Ultra, and then prior to that, a very, very close game with London that went all the way down to a Game 5.
Yeah, and it's just really difficult when you talk about this team, because obviously they're sitting at 1-1 throughout stage 4. The series versus Toronto told me a lot about what this team is. Like, because when you go up against the big dogs, you need to be able to perform, and it just not only was Vivid, but it was also Shotzzy. And this is a guy, when you pick up a player like Vivid, when they sat Hook down, they expected Shotzzy to be that Hall of Fame, that MVP kind of SMG player. But so far, he hasn't answered the call. He's sitting on a 0.88, and him and Vivid, that 1-2 punch needs to be on point today.
Definitely does. And when we talk about the other side, we talk about the SMG line. It also needs to be on point for this roster as well. Again, we talked about a team that made a change. They decided to put Vivid on the bench. Dallas Empire later joins that team. Roster that is all about structure. A roster that is also trying to bring themselves back up in the standings ahead of that fourth major. Let's go and meet the roster, LAG.
When my friends go, it was simple. When the ends low, switch the tempo. I got right, I got heart, I won't die, I'ma fight. I go down, bet I strike, I go hard day and night. Money on the line, keep calling. Money on the books, need all that. My kids, they'll be ballin'. Got a real bankroll, not for Instagram. My mama on the line, keep calling. Praying for me, know I need all that. Told me it's not about ballin'. Real blessed, but I'm still sinning, man. I got right, I got heart, I won't die, I'ma fight. I go down, bet I strike, I go hard day and night.
And there you have it, your LA Guerrillas. I mean, what's that? A lot of people coming into this series, a majority of them have been talking about, hey, Guerrillas, they got a really good chance to steal this series. There have been a number of different people who have kind of gone out there and said, hey, I'm picking Guerrillas in this particular series, just kind of given how Dallas have looked lately. I got to ask you, how do you think that LAG do this? How do you think they come out today versus Dallas?
I think that they come out and they win a respawn, and that's just something that they struggled with in their last matchup versus New York. They came out and won the Search and Destroy, but they lost both hard points and they lost that control. So they need to just show some consistency in the respawn game modes. And just taking a little bit of stats from that last match versus NYSL, the only player over 1.0, and it wasn't like a regular 1.0, it was a 1.2, was Chino. And the fact that he kept those stats up throughout an entire crazy series versus New York, you just need more better performances out of the rest of your teammates. You need apathy, you need Silly to really come out and just be on point today. So that's going to take us right into our keys to victory presented by Game Fuel for LAG. SMGs will set the pace today. Apathy and Silly need to be on point. combined versus NYSL, they were both sitting at -48, and that's just not good. I'm pretty sure they were both sitting around a consistent 0.7. It's just not good out of the SMG play. Then Respawn needs to improve for them to be true competitors. They are 12th in the CDL in hardpoint and 10th currently in that control game mode. And then they also need to bring that energy. Players can feed off the hype. A lot of that relies on an early map victory, and we saw it. When this team wins, you see how Chino gets. Chino's like, I'm the best player in the game. And like me having past play with aBeZy, with me playing with aBeZy before, I was always that guy that was hyped. So when you know you have that energy on your team, it's going to obviously bring the best out of Chino, but it's also going to bring the best out of aBeZy. So they need to be on point today.
Yeah, and it was kind of surprising when we were looking at the stats for them versus New York. It was almost like shocking to see that aBeZy and Silly just did not perform the way kind of that we expect them to, you know, on a consistent basis, specifically a player like aBeZy, but it is going to be a tall task. Now, our game fuel keys to victory here for the Dallas Empire. What, man, he had a total turnaround today from Vivid. He ended last week with a 0.63 overall KD after their 2 series. Also, cannot allow for control to continue to be a weakness. Much like Seattle, this team is also on a control losing streak as they have lost their last 8 in a row and also have not won since the Hook trade. Also, to go along with that, Shotzzy, he has to take over and lead by example in the slang. So far, he has a 0.88 KD in stage 4. And I guess kind of continuing off of that stud, how much of this series do you think relies on Shotzzy? How important of a factor does he play in this series?
I feel like he's really important because we saw for LAG, they tend to struggle with the SMGs playing well. That's why when they went up against New York, it was really hard to beat them in a respawn because you got HyDra and Asim were just running around the entire time, picking up kills. So the way you're going to cause them problems, it comes in the respawns. You need your SMG players to play well. No 0.6 out of Vivid, no 0.8 out of Shotzzy. Shotzzy needs to be the all-star today, and Vivid, he needs to be consistent over 1.0. And the fact that he's going up against his old team, like I said, he's got all the strats. He's got the playbook basically written down in his brain, so he should be able to provide that for his team now.
I want to ask you too, like, you know, obviously I'm sure you've been in this position before where, you know, you maybe been dropped by a team and then you later on go to face off against them. I mean, given, I know you've been through it a few times, but I guess kind of given Vivid's perspective, like you're looking to find some stability. Now you're facing off against your old team, a lot of pressure on your shoulders. What should be the mindset of Vivid in this match, you think?
I think if you're looking at it the way I looked at it, is that every time that I got dropped, I felt like I was the player that didn't deserve to get dropped. So it just adds this extra fuel of fire that you can just, it's just a different feeling, man. So for Vivid, it's all about just coming like, hey, you guys made a mistake. So I'm going to show you why you made the mistake, and he's going to come out and perform today. So that is what I can compare, at least from my perspective, from me formerly playing. It was always against Nameless for some reason. He always dropped me, and I always come back and beat him. But for Vivid, he's just going to come out and just show his old teammates why that roster change was just wrong.
I'm just imagining Nameless right now, just sitting in the green room with like the Arthur meme, just fist, you know, maybe clenched a little bit, but no, all jokes aside, let's go take a look now at our quick scope presented by Scump, a major series for both of these teams, and you can kind of notice the weaknesses on both sides. Obviously, the hard point favoring Dallas. Search and destroy department, that one goes the way of the Guerrillas, and when we get into this control, again, 12-16 record out of the Dallas Empire. But that is not keeping in mind that at one point they were 12-8. They have lost their last 8 controls to now allow for that mode to be a weakness stud. And what we got a hardpoint, search, destroy, and control listed here. What is the blueprint for a roster like LAG in this matchup?
I think it's going to come down to the opening hardpoint, because I feel like LAG, they're just going to be a lot better or more well-rounded when it comes to the S&D game mode. And even though Dallas Empire in the series that they took versus London, they won both search and destroys. And LAG, even though they lost the series versus NYSL, they won the S&D. So I feel like for LAG, if they could come out and win that opening hardpoint, build that momentum, bring that energy going into that map number 2, I feel like they have a good chance of taking this.
Alrighty, folks. Well, I think we've set the stage quite well, just going through our final server test. But make sure that, folks, stay with us. It is the Dallas Empire taking on the LA Guerrillas, a series that is set to have it all. When we come back after the break, it is Raid Hardpoint to start this bad boy off.
This is your Scump Team of the Week, a super team built with 4 of the top performers at the most recent event. 3 players were selected by the league and 1 was selected by fan vote. Stick around till the end to find out who made the team. First up, it's Skies, the main AR of the Florida Mutineers. The Mutineers started off their stage 4 with a bang. They had a clean 3-0 win over the London Royal Ravens and a huge 3-2 upset over the Toronto Ultra. The entire team showed up to play, but it was Skies who really stood out on the roster. Skies performed exceptionally well across the respawns and earned the 4th highest overall KD of the week. His best performance came in Florida's match versus the Royal Ravens when he dropped a huge 1.41 KD versus the London squad. Next up, it's Mack of the New York Subliners. The Subliners only had 1 match to play this week, but it was a good one for them. The team had a relatively comfortable 3-1 win over the LA Guerrillas, not a surprise considering the numbers that Mack was putting up. He did so well in this one series that it propelled him to the top of multiple KD rankings of the week. Not only did Mack earn the highest overall KD of the week, he also earned the highest control KD in addition to the highest hardpoint KD. Our third player, Simp of the Atlanta FaZe. Simp's been on so many episodes of Scump Team of the Week that it's more unusual not to see him on the roster. Simp has consistently posted some of the best individual stats from event to event, and the first week of Stage 4 was no different. After Atlanta FaZe's 2 matches this week, Simp logged the 6th highest overall KD of the field, a tough feat for a second SMG on a team with an insane amount of firepower. Simp's usually the one filling in the gaps for his team, but one map where he really went off was FaZe's first map versus the Paris Legion, where he went 34-20 on Garrison Hardpoint. And finally, selected by fan vote, it's aBeZy of the Atlanta FaZe. Along with Simp, aBeZy makes up the other half of Atlanta FaZe's SMG duo. When it comes to the difference between the two, Simp is the one filling in the gaps for Atlanta, and aBeZy is the one punching the gaps in the opposite team. When you're up against a player like this, it's hard enough to tell what route he's going to take to catch your team off guard, and somehow even harder to actually win those 50-50 gunfights. aBeZy's best series came in Atlanta FaZe's match versus OpTic Chicago, where he led the entire lobby in both kills and damage. That's your Scump Team of the Week for Stage 4, Week 1.
Alrighty, folks, being told that we're just moments away from Game 1 starting. I know LAG does have lag in their name. I have no idea if that coordinates in any possible way, but, you know, who knows? I've been asked to possibly give LAG a technical just because of, no, all jokes aside, it is going to be a series that we are very much anticipating. I'm actually watching just toward my side monitor here, and I see players are testing things out, getting things ready. Players just making sure the shots are on fire. I honestly could not speak there for a moment, but so I want to kind of focus a little bit more, I guess you could say, on the Guerrillas side of things as we kind of readily approach this series start. I know the big topic has been on the Guerrillas about the respawns. How can they find that consistency in that department specifically? Because again, it's been a matter of like, hey, this team, they got to be better at the respawns, but how do you see that actually happening on a consistent basis for them?
I think it comes down to the SMG play, and it's just simple because aBeZy, he plays at such a fast pace, and I know that's silly. He was that AR on this team before, so him swapping over to a sub is still fairly new to him. So sometimes the pacing is just off between both of those players, so you can get them on the same page and just really get Silly to start putting a little more pep in his step with that SMG. I feel like they're going to be playing at such a better pace, at least in the respawn, so they have a fighting chance at staying alive throughout the entire game and not allowing it to be a blowout. And it's just great because obviously ever since these guys have made that change for Chino, every single map has been really close. Like, even though they're losing a majority of their respawns, they're still really close. They have the ability to fight with some of the best. It just comes down to those little 1 to 2 pieces that can really close the game out. And I'm looking specifically at those SMG players.
Yeah, I want to say too, kind of on topic with that, I know you are kind of circling the SMGs for this. If we're looking at one player to kind of be the difference maker for both of our rosters coming into this one, who did you highlight in bold today? Like, who are you circling from LAG side? Who are you highlighting? Who are you circling for the Dallas side to possibly be the biggest impact players on this series?
Well, on the LAG side, I was circling aBeZy. And the reason why is because the guy's a 2-time world champ. The guy knows what it takes to win. And we're getting closer towards the end of that year where we see the best out of aBeZy basically every single year, man. For some reason, he struggles in the beginning of the year, but then he gets like to his final form towards the end when around that champs time. So I need aBeZy to have a big series. And then on the opposite side, Oh, you probably thought I was going to say Vivid, but no.
I did.
I'm definitely going to say Shotzzy, man, because Shotzzy, he needs to be that MVP SMG player. Like you said, throughout Stage 4, he's sitting at a .88, which is not something we expect out of this guy. He was the MVP last year for champs for this roster, so he needs to be back into that form where he just can't be touched on the map. Like, he's basically like another aBeZy, but his movement is just insane. You just need to be able to pick up those kills for your team to be able to close out some of these games.
And as we kind of take a look at Dallas's kind of road to the major, seeing what games they obviously have up next as they currently sit at 1-1. They've got LAG, they've got New York and Florida still to face off against. I mean, those two teams, especially kind of toward the end, I mean, that kind of heavily emphasizes how important this game is for the Guerrillas. Because, of course, you do get the W versus Ravens. You lose to Ultra. I mean, with the way that Subliners have looked, with the way that Florida has looked lately, I mean, that could be what kind of sets apart how this group lines out. I know a lot of conversation is who's going to be kind of that third seed. Is it Dallas? Is it going to be somebody else? That very well could kind of shape things up. And I also kind of on topic with that, I know you mentioned Shotzzy, you mentioned aBeZy, but specifically kind of on Shotzzy right now. I mean, what do you think has been the problem so far for him? Because I feel like he's had a good season overall. There's nothing that really kind of sticks out that says, oh, you know, this isn't great. There's been nothing that really kind of stands out and says, oh, he's absolutely excellent. He's in, you know, the same kind of par that he was last year. What do you think has kind of allowed him to maybe not be at that top tier as we saw last season?
Honestly, it's a lot of Dallas Empire players or just organization, the fans, whatever, they're going to be all mad at me because it was ever since they released Hook, man. And that's just something that was really scary. It's just that Shotzzy, he was so comfortable playing with Hook because they played at the same pace. They were both able to pick up those kills, but they released Hook. They go through a couple roster changes and it just doesn't working out for him. So hopefully Shotzzy and Vivid can be on point today with those SMGs to keep the pacing on point, at least with them fighting back and forth, trying to get those trades is exactly what Shotzzy needs to do today.
All right, man. I know, we talk about Shotzzy and stuff. Just interested to kind of see exactly how the kind of the rest of his season intends to play on out. Well, you see, it's all smiles, at least from the Dallas Empire camp. Again, I promise, folks, we are moments away playing the Guerrillas. We'll be back here in just a few moments with that hard point. I promise you, it's on raid and it's coming up soon. All right, folks, we are so glad to have you back because the game is ready. Did you get that? All right, we're just full of surprises today. I've been told that the game is about to start. So make sure to get that popcorn, be ready, get that game fuel, get it ever so close to your body because here we go. It is about to be on some raid. And let's start. Speaking of surprises, and I'm full of questions. I just love to ask you all the questions that I can because you're basically the encyclopedia of Call of Duty. And with that in mind, so like I said, speaking of surprises, how did LAG come through and surprise us on a map like Raid? What needs to be done? I know we've talked about players. We've basically set the stage as well as you can, but getting more specifically into this Raid hardpoint, how do you see LAG come through and win this first one?
It's all going to come down to the money hills, man. Like, if you are not able to gain any time for that P1, you need to respond with the next hardpoint, which is going to be towards Kitchen. You cannot allow for the team that's holding the previous hardpoint to go in and at least break your rotation and at least chain some of that time together. LAG, they do a great job when we talk about Apocalypse hardpoint. For that P2, they basically get a full 60 on it every time. So as long as they can hold their setup properly and just not allow Dallas to break in and give themselves a full 60, I feel like LAG has a good chance.
And with that in mind, we talk about hardpoint. Dallas has not treated them oh so kindly as of late. When we talk about this particular mode for them, they are 1-4 in their last 5, currently on a 4-game losing spree. in opening hard points. So with that all considered, LAG, we'll see what they can do out of the rip. And so far, it has been just as solid as you'd like to see. Speaking of the fact that they also do have P2 spawns in their backside as well. Grabbing those early 20 are going to cause some instant problems for Dallas as they continue to lay down the lead. aBeZy also from the flank lays down some fire as well. Incredible Empire do get some time. It's aBeZy with the full-on 360. A wonderful play to take down Crim, and from there, he will hop inside of the point. Unfortunately, off of that play, spawns do flip for Empire, but we are well into this bad boy.
Yeah, we're not mad. We're not mad if you're LAG because they are able to get a good chunk of time off of this P1 hard point. So now it's all about just setting up that push, trying to set up that break towards this backside, and unfortunately, Crimsix, he's going to get the better of aBeZy in that gunfight. Vivid with the trade, so they shut down that push from LAG as they try to commit towards that backside laundries. But LAG, once again, they're going to do it again. They're trying to go on the backside, and this is something that LAG tend to struggle with, is that they don't really have many different showings of how they want to attack these hard points. So once again, they attack the back. Dallas shut it down once again, and Dallas so far are holding this P2 hard point flawlessly.
They are indeed a great kind of pick me up if you are the Empire, based on how P1 went, a setup that they desperately needed to hold, considering how the game could have got out of hand. But now full 60 going the way of Dallas. But just as we say that, LAG, they spawn toward the back. Meanwhile, iLLeY spawns toward water side. So a number of different spawns happening on the other side of the map. And really for Shotzzy, running through the tape, my man. He's the only guy here toward the garage, despite what could have been a rotation for Guerrillas. They spawns toward back jungle, and this very well could be a chain for Dallas. Two kind of awkward situations, but God gods are smiling down them at least to start. We'll see how LAG can go for the break.
Yeah, but the pinch is coming in on both sides. They have to try to locate Vivid, and yes, they do. So now you have 3 players from LAG committing towards that gym side. Assault winning a big gunfight, but the pinch is in from aBeZy. And that's such a heads-up play. That's going to spawn all of Dallas Empire out towards the middle of the map. And just like that, LAG were able to break in and not allow Dallas to get a full 60 hold once again. Now you had to start thinking about that rotation. You know that basketball is another full 60 hill. Gunfight still going back and forth in towards this gym side. aBeZy trying to walk with the engagement away from Mr. Crimsix. He's currently sitting on a 3 spree on that.